All right, everyone, now it's time to weigh in on the Virginia gubernatorial race. Keep in mind that the polls are open on November 2nd, so that's when Virginians vote. So just so there's no confusion, sometimes people are like, I don't know when. I'm not going to Google that because I don't have 5 seconds. If you are in Virginia, I strongly urge you to vote for Youngkin. The reason why is right now, you've got a situation where the Virginia race is sort of a template for the political direction of the country. The fact is that Mcauliffe a few months ago was basically considered a shoo-in. The race leaned 8 to 10 points in his favor. It looked like, this fairly long-term political figure is just going to be put back into his office so that he can continue to screw the people of Virginia. If you're a business owner or a parent at this point, there's really no reason to vote for Terry Mcauliffe. Some of you probably are more independent and on the fence because Youngkin is not the perfect character. He's not a perfect politician, but he's more of an outsider. That's, point number one. If you support Trump, he's been more or less endorsed by him. If you look at the tidal wave of propaganda you've seen over the last few weeks as the race has considerably narrowed, and Mcauliffe, keep in mind, still does technically have an advantage. I still believe that it is more likely that he potentially wins, but not if people come out in significant numbers. If turnout is even slightly in Youngkin's favor, Youngkin will become the next governor. What this would do from a shitposter's perspective is it would open a massive can of worms. The Democrats will go into meltdown. It'll undermine Pelosi. It'll undermine Biden's mandate. This has ramifications that go well beyond the state borders of Virginia. Now, again, as someone who, if I was there, I wouldn't be voting mainly for Youngkin. I would be voting mainly against a person who's clearly unfit to lead, which is Mcauliffe. His comments with regards to parents, his then exasperated, panicked email fundraisers. Oh, it's a dark hour. We need your help more than ever. Oh my God. What's happened is that Youngkin has actually got a chance, which, wasn't considered to be the case not long ago. If the polling for the Democrats, which is all in a negative direction right now, stabilizes or continues to get worse, the race will narrow further. Now, some people have already early voted, and they were voting disproportionately, I'm sure, for Mcauliffe earlier on because his polling was better. Even if you assume push polling, he still had the advantage. Any deviation from that in Youngkin's direction in the final exit polling, any further reduction in Mcauliffe approval, in Biden's approval, that affects down ballot races, narrows it further. And what I want to see is I want to see a race where at the very least it's a head-scratchingly close result that forces the Democrats to do a little bit of soul searching. Not that they're willing to do that, and that's sort of the point. It will be funny to watch them run around like chickens with their heads cut off, worrying about the midterms. Oh my God, we've got to do something. This means the leftoids will be even more vehement in wanting to pass their trillions of dollars of pork barrel spending. The moderates will look at it and say, well, Virginia's the state that has leaned blue. Now it's like a 50-50 proposition. Biden is faltering. Mcauliffe barely gets reelected or gets knocked out. And it'll embolden the mansions and cinemas on the other side, leading to deadlock and dysfunction. The best thing that we can do right now as a country, the best thing Virginians can do as a state, is kick out the old neoliberal dross that lockdownerism, which is causing massive economic problems. If there's pain at the pump, blame the Democrats at this point. It's lockdowner blue state governors predominantly doing that. Biden, with his mandate, his attempt through OSHA, is endangering literally millions of jobs around the country. You've got low labor force participation because millions of people aren't going to bother to seek employment because you've got expanded employment benefits that are now going to be, that can will be kicked down the road as long as they can. It's almost like the Democrats want the economy to be bad, and it's self-defeating at some point. It's harming them. The United States, the public, needs to take the country back away from the globalists, from the dross, people like Terry Mcauliffe. I think Youngkin is objectively better as a candidate, would be objectively a better governor, and simply in this case, it's extra important. In Virginia, you still have some lockdownerism that's remnant. Youngkin is against it all. Just like Larry Elder could have saved California a lot of problems. I bet there's some buyer's remorse of Newsom in that state as well. Even though just a close result. would show that the trajectory of the country, in which the Democrats in Virginia, where they had a fairly highly ingrained advantage, will have pissed it away, and even a close outcome, I think, will drive the point home that it is possible for us to re-defeat globalism, much like in 2016 it was soundly defeated. People got Trump derangement syndrome, and that led to some of the shenanigans in 2020, wink wink, honk honk, and we can undo that. It is possible. I know there are a lot of people out there, probably some in Virginia, that are black-pilled. They're like, well, the election will just be fortified, so it's pointless to vote. Not really. The election there has been partially defortified, which means that there is, again, a chance that Youngkin wins. And of course, if you have the governor on your side, that certainly helps if you want to have ongoing efforts to make sure that the midterms are fair. You've got dozens of other states that either have or are in the process of defortification to make sure that the next election is not fixed, is not fortified the way that the last one was. That'll be important going forward. And this is a big bellwether. The other thing is that the Democrats, especially when Mcauliffe was reasonably ahead, spent an inordinate amount of time proclaiming that this was going to be the template race for the upcoming midterms. What better way to set them off into panic mode, which is what Democrats are really good at. They like to get panicked and work themselves up. What better way to cause derision and stir up chaos within the Democratic Party at large than to have the gubernatorial seat flip or nearly flip? Well, there is no, they gave so much outsized importance to it that now they're trying to walk it back. There have been so many articles in the last couple of weeks since the race began noticeably tightening. They're like, no. Yeah, we were wrong before. No, when we said that this was the golden standard of, this was the bellwether of what's to come politically, now they're like, oh, no, don't worry. It wouldn't be unprecedented for Youngkin to win, and we're still hoping for Mcauliffe because he gives us lots of money. If we're in the legacy media, of course, and operating in Virginia, we're going to get special treatment. We like the dude because the Democratic Party at large, we've given billions to them. Big businesses have, big tech, all these other groups. They'll be very, very upset. And there won't be any return on their investment. They've pumped enormous amounts of cash into the race, predominantly for Mcauliffe. And it would be funny to see them get flummoxed. It would be hilarious to see them get punished once again. So yes, if you are in Virginia again, November 2nd, please do vote, and I would urge you to vote for Youngkin. I guess this is an official endorsement. Keeping in mind, I'm not a conservative. I probably, looking at his particular views on censorship, the dude seems fine. On the lockdownerism angle, and I think those are the two big things right now to vote on anyway, that and the economy. As third, on all of these things, you can't really make the case for Mcauliffe. The dude doesn't really have any selling points. And the fact that he's still arguably marginally ahead, although it would be nice to have another round of polling to see if it's still evening, that's more the fact that there are just more registered Democrats in the state. Then it comes down to turnout. Well, if you have demoralized Republicans or independents that don't like Mcauliffe, but they say, well, it'll just, the race won't be fair, so we're not going to vote. Well, that's a self-fulfilling prophecy situation, and that's sort of like Sun Tzu style. The Democrats don't want you to think that you can win, because then you won't go out and vote, and then you won't win, and then it'll reinforce it in your mind that you're powerless and everything's going to hell, and blah, blah, blah. China's going to take over, and there's nothing to do, so I'm just going to, basically sit here and watch the republic burn. Well, to combat that, you need more civic awareness. The people of Virginia are already doing it. The school board meetings being overrun there to the point where Biden has to step in and beg people not to do that and insinuate that they're domestic terrorists. So, yes, Youngkin officially, I guess, has the clanker endorsement. Although, again, and this is going to be interesting, watching the differential. In many cases, it'll be a vote against Terry McAuliffe as opposed to necessarily for Youngkin. Voting against the lesser of two evils is something that I frown upon. Voting in the case where one candidate is sane and the other candidate is clearly completely nuts, which is McAuliffe, based on his lockdownerism, based on his parents, based on his beliefs about critical race theory. He's literally endorsing soft Marxism. I don't think that's a lesser of two evils situation. I think that's one candidate is evil and the other candidate is at least tolerable situation. I don't see the problem with that whatsoever. That's about all. Peace out.